David Oscar Markus is joining us now. He's a criminal defense attorney who's represented a number of high-profile clients, most recently and notably Ghislaine Maxwell and others. David, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for being here with us. First of all, our colleague John Miller reporting just about an hour ago that as of then, Maduro still didn't have an attorney, that he could end up tomorrow with a public defender. Walk us through what that process is like.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jessica. So he'll make his first appearance tomorrow, and I'm sure he'll have a court-appointed lawyer because he hasn't had time to meet with private lawyers, to hire a private lawyer. So he'll have someone appointed for the first appearance, and then he'll start going through the process of interviewing folks, figuring out who he wants to hire. He was just flown here. He hasn't been meeting with American criminal defense lawyers. So that will take some time. The judge will give him some time, probably 30 or 45 days to get a lawyer on board. That lawyer is going to have to work through getting paid because Maduro's on the sanctions list, which means any lawyer who wants to get involved is going to have to go through a process to get a license. It's very time consuming, but it will get done. And he will, I'm sure, get very good representation going forward.
And this, again, the king, John Miller, laying it all out for us. But he said, this could take a year to get to trial, maybe longer. This is going to be quite a drawn-out process. Again, something you're very familiar with, these processes and how long they take. What should people anticipate in terms of how long this might take and how we might see this play out?
John has it exactly right. It's going to take a long time to get to trial. I would say at least a year. Any criminal defense lawyer who comes in is going to want to have time. Now, you have to balance that with your client being in custody, and in custody in a terrible place, a soul-crushing place. That MDC is one of the worst prisons you can be in. I had a client there, you mentioned Miss Maxwell. She was there. It's a terrible place. It's frigid inside. The food is terrible. It's moldy. It's bad. You lose weight. You age in there. You're going to be isolated as a high-profile defendant. You're not going to be in general population, they say, for your own safety. So it's going to be really, really difficult conditions for him. And then to prepare for trial, the lawyer's going to have to come in, meet with him for a couple hours. You can't bring your cell phone in. You have to get a computer that's safe, they say, not connected to the internet to review discovery. So it's going to be a difficult, lengthy process for Maduro and his lawyer.
And again, because you've had high-profile clients in this exact prison, what might make him different than some of the other inmates? You mentioned that he'll be held by himself. What might make him the same?
So this is really wild. We can look back to the Noriega case in Miami. And because he argued he was a prisoner of war under the Geneva Convention, he got to have a special unit in the jail. They actually, his prison cell suite, they called it the presidential suite. He had electronics, a telephone, exercise equipment. He had it all back then. So the first thing that Maduro's lawyers are going to be arguing for is that he's a prisoner of war. He needs special accommodations. He shouldn't be held in what's called the SHU, the special housing unit, which is a very difficult place to be. He should have, his lawyers are going to say, the Noriega presidential suite.
Very interesting. And so in terms of the defenses here, the potential defenses he might have, what would a defense attorney be looking at here?
There's going to be a lot of legal and factual defenses, Jessica. So first is a legal defense, sovereign immunity. You saw this defense again with Noriega in the late 80s, but Noriega wasn't the president of Panama at the time. So Maduro has a lot stronger case to argue for sovereign immunity. Remember, Trump says that heads of state should not be prosecuted, that he argued successfully before the Supreme Court and won. There are cases saying foreign heads of state, too, should not be prosecuted for actions taken as heads of state. So he's going to have that argument. Of course, the United States is going to say, we didn't recognize him as a head of state, so he doesn't have that defense. And so that'll be interesting. No court has really ruled on that other than the 11th Circuit in Noriega. This will be in the 2nd Circuit out of New York, a different circuit, and so not governed by the 11th. Then you have all of the factual defenses. This is going to be like your classic drug case. There's going to be cooperating witnesses, what we call snitches, coming in to testify against Maduro, and the criminal defense lawyer is going to be able to impeach those witnesses and try to argue that this really isn't about drugs. This is about regime change. And so, both sides are going to have really strong arguments. I also think the venue was an interesting choice, Jessica, because they could have brought this case down here in Miami, where I'm from, where the jury pool is much more anti-Maduro than it is in New York, much more pro-Trump in Miami than it is in New York. They chose New York, which is a more difficult venue for the prosecution than Miami would have been.
That is an interesting point. David, Oscar Markus, great to have you. Thanks for that insight. We appreciate it.